Main article, Prehistory of Albania. The remains of the Kamenika tumulus in the county of Korça. Mesolithic habitation in Albania has been evidenced in several open-air sites, which during that period were close to the Adriatic coastline, and in cave sites. Mesolithic objects found in a cave near Zara include flint and jasper objects along with fossilized animal bones, while those discoveries at Mount Daj comprise bone and stone tools similar to those of the Aurignacian culture. 21. The Neolithic era in Albania began around 7000 BC, and is evidenced in finds which indicate domestication of sheep and goats and small-scale agriculture. A part of the Neolithic population may have been the same as the Mesolithic population of the southern Balkans, like in the Knispel cave, where the Mesolithic stratum coexists with pre-pottery Neolithic finds. Cardium pottery culture appears in coastal Albania and across the Adriatic after 6500 BC, while the settlements of the interior took part in the processes which form the Starcevo culture. 22. The Albanian bitumen mines of Salenika provide early evidence of bitumen exploitation in Europe, dating to late Neolithic Albania, from 5000 BC, when local communities used it as pigment for ceramic decoration, waterproofing, and adhesive for repairing broken vessels. The bitumen of Salenika circulated towards eastern Albania from the early 5th millennium BC. First evidence of its overseas trade export comes from Neolithic and Bronze Age southern Italy. The high-quality bitumen of Salenika has been exploited throughout all the historical ages since the late Neolithic era until today. 23. The Indo-Europeanization of Albania in the context of the Iisation of the Western Balkans began after 2800 BC. The presence of the early Bronze Age tumuli in the vicinity of later Apollonia dates to 2679, plus or minus 174 Cal BC, 2852 to 2505 Cal BC. These burial mounds belong to the southern expression of the Adriatic Ljubljana culture, related to later Cetina culture, which moved southwards along the Adriatic from the northern Balkans. The same community built similar mounds in Montenegro, Rakica and northern Albania, Staj. 24. The first archaeogenetic find related to the Iisation of Albania involves a man with predominantly Yamnaya ancestry buried in a tumulus of northeastern Albania, which dates to 2663 to 2472 Cal BC. 25. During the Middle Bronze Age, Cetina culture sites and finds appear in Albania. Cetina culture moved southwards across the Adriatic from the Cetina Valley of Dalmatia. In Albania, Cetina finds are concentrated around southern Lake Shkodër, and appear typically in tumulus cemeteries, like in Shkrel and Staj, and hillforts like Gajdan, Shkodër, as well as cave sites like Blaz, Nezir and Kaputa, central Albania, and lake basin sites like Sovjan, southeastern Albania. 26. Antiquity. Main article, Antiquity in Albania. Founded in the 4th century BC, the city of Shkodra was the capital of the Illyrian kingdom of Ardii and Labidi. The incorporated territory of Albania was historically inhabited by Indo-European peoples, amongst them numerous Illyrian and Epirote tribes. There were also several Greek colonies. The territory referred to as Illyria corresponded roughly to the area east of the Adriatic Sea in the Mediterranean Sea, extending in the south to the mouth of the Vjasa. 27-28. The first account of the Illyrian groups comes from Periplus of the Euxine Sea, a Greek text written in the 4th century BC. 29. The Bryges were also present in central Albania, while the south was inhabited by the Epirote Chaonians, whose capital was at Phonis. 29, 30, 31. Other colonies such as Apollonia and Epidamnus were established by Greek city-states on the coast by the 7th century BC. 29, 32, 33. Apollonia was an important Greek colony on the Illyrian coast along the Adriatic Sea, and one of the western points of the Via Egnatia route that connected Rome and Constantinople. The Illyrian Talanti were a powerful Illyrian tribe that were among the earliest recorded tribes in the area. They lived in an area that corresponds much of present-day Albania, together with the Dardanian ruler Cletus. Glaucius, the ruler of the Talantian kingdom, fought against Alexander the Great at the Battle of Pelium in 335 BC. As the time passed, the ruler of ancient Macedonia, Cassander of Macedon, captured Apollonia and crossed the river Genusus, Albanian, Shkumbin, in 314 BC. A few years later, Glaucius laid siege to Apollonia and captured the Greek colony of Epidamnus. 34. The Illyrian Ardii tribe, centered in Montenegro, ruled over most of the territory of northern Albania. Their Ardean kingdom reached its greatest extent under King Agron, the son of Pleritus II. Agron extended his rule over other neighboring tribes as well. 35. Following Agron's death in 230 BC, his wife Teuta inherited the Ardean kingdom. Teuda's forces extended their operations further southwards to the Ionian Sea. 36 In 229 BC, Rome declared war 37 on the kingdom for extensively plundering Roman ships. The war ended in Illyrian defeat in 227 BC. Teuda was eventually succeeded by Gentius in 181 BC. 38 Gentius clashed with the Romans in 168 BC, initiating the Third Illyrian War. The conflict resulted in Roman conquest of the region by 167 BC. The Romans split the region into 3 administrative divisions. 39. Middle Ages Main article. Albania. In the Middle Ages, the town of Kruja was the capital of the Principality of Arbanin. In the Middle Ages, the Roman Empire was split in 395 upon the death of Theodosius I into an Eastern and Western Roman Empire, in part because of the increasing pressure from threats during the barbarian invasions. From the 6th century into the 7th century, the Slavs crossed the Danube and largely absorbed the indigenous Greeks, Illyrians, and Thracians in the Balkans. Thus, the Illyrians were mentioned for the last time in historical records in the 7th century. 41. In the 11th century, the Great Schism formalized the break of communion between the Eastern Orthodox and Western Catholic Church, that is reflected in Albania through the emergence of a Catholic North and Orthodox South. The Albanian people inhabited the west of Lake Ochryda and the upper valley of River Shkumbin, and established the Principality of Arbanin in 1190 under the leadership of Pragan of Kruja. 42. The realm was succeeded by his sons Gjin and Dimitar. Upon the death of Dimitar, the territory came under the rule of the Albanian Greek Gregory Kamenis, and subsequently under the Golem of Kruja. 43, 44, 45 In the 13th century, the principality was dissolved. 46, 47, 48. Arbanin is considered to be the first sketch of an Albanian state that retained a semi-autonomous status as the western extremity of the Byzantine Empire. Under the Byzantine Douke of Epirus are Lascarids of Nicaea. 49. A relief of the Scuola degli Albanesi commemorating the siege of Shkodra. It illustrates Sultan Mehmet II laying siege to the Albanian town of Scutari, then part of Venetian Empire. Towards the end of the 12th and beginning of the 13th centuries, Serbs and Venetians started to take possession over the territory. 50. The ethnogenesis of the Albanians is uncertain, however. The first undisputed mention of Albanians dates back in historical records from 1079 or 1080 in a work by Michael Italiates, who referred to the Albanoi as having taken part in a revolt against Constantinople. 51. At this point the Albanians were fully Christianized. After the dissolution of Arbanin, Charles of Anjou concluded an agreement with the Albanian rulers, promising to protect them and their ancient liberties. In 1272, he established the Kingdom of Albania, and conquered regions back from the Despotate of Epirus. The kingdom claimed all of central Albania territory from Dyrrhachium, along the Adriatic Sea coast down to Butrint. A Catholic political structure was a basis for the papal plans of spreading Catholicism in the Balkan Peninsula. This plan found also the support of Helen of Anjou. Around 30 Catholic churches and monasteries were built during her rule, mainly in northern Albania. 52. Internal power struggles within the Byzantine Empire in the 14th century enabled Serbs' most powerful medieval ruler, Stefan Dušan, to establish a short-lived empire that included all of Albania except Durrës. 50. Albanian principalities, circa 1390, excluding the Despotate of Arda. In 1367, Albanian rulers established the Despotate of Arda. During that time, several Albanian principalities were created, notably the Principality of Albania, Principality of Kastriti, Lordship of Berat and Principality of Dukagjini. In the first half of the 15th century, the Ottoman Empire invaded most of Albania, and the League of Lezha was held under Skanderbeg as a ruler, who became the national hero of the Albanian medieval history. Ottoman Empire. Main article, Albania under the Ottoman Empire. See also, Albanian rebellion against the Ottoman Empire. After serving the Ottoman Empire for nearly 20 years, George Kastriti Skanderbeg deserted, and began a successful rebellion against the empire that halted Ottoman advance into Europe for 25 years. Ali Pasha Teplina was a powerful autonomous Ottoman Albanian ruler, governing over the Pashalik of Yanina. With the fall of Constantinople, the Ottoman Empire continued an extended period of conquest and expansion, with its borders going deep into southeast Europe. They reached the Albanian-Ionian Sea coast in 1385, and erected their garrisons across southern Albania in 1415, and then occupied most of Albania in 1431. 53, 54. Thousands of Albanians consequently fled to Western Europe, particularly to Calabria, Naples, Ragusa, and Sicily, whereby others sought protection at the often inaccessible mountains of Albania. 55-48, the Albanians, as Christians, were considered an inferior class of people, and as such they were subjected to heavy taxes among others by the devshirme system, that allowed the Sultan to collect a requisite percentage of Christian adolescents from their families to compose the Janissary. 56. The Ottoman conquest was also accompanied with the gradual process of Islamization and the rapid construction of mosques. A prosperous and long-standing revolution erupted after the formation of the League of Lezha until the fall of Shkodër under the leadership of Gjurgj Kastrati Skanderbeg, who consistently defeated major Ottoman armies led by Sultans Murad II and Mehmed II. Skanderbeg managed to unite several of the Albanian principalities, amongst them the Arianitis, Ducagninus, Zaharius and Thopius, and establish a centralized authority over most of the non-conquered territories, becoming the Lord of Albania. 57. The Ottoman Empire's expansion ground to a halt during the time that Skanderbeg's forces resisted, and he has been credited with being one of the main reasons for the delay of Ottoman expansion into Western Europe, giving the Italian principalities more time to better prepare for the Ottoman arrival. 58. However, the failure of most European nations, with the exception of Naples, in giving him support, along with the failure of Pope Pius II's plans to organize a promised crusade against the Ottomans, meant that none of Skanderbeg's victories permanently hindered the Ottomans from invading the Western Balkans. 59-60. Despite his brilliance as a military leader, Skanderbeg's victories were only delaying the final conquests. The constant Ottoman invasions caused enormous destruction to Albania, greatly reducing the population and destroying flocks of livestock and crops. Besides surrender, there was no possible way Skanderbeg would be able to halt the Ottoman invasions despite his successes against them. His manpower and resources were insufficient, preventing him from expanding the war efforts and driving the Turks from the Albanian borders. Albania was therefore doomed to face an unending series of Ottoman attacks, until it eventually fell years after his death. 61. When the Ottomans were gaining a firm foothold in the region, Albanian towns were organized into 4 principal sanjaks. The government fostered trade by settling a sizable Jewish colony of refugees, fleeing persecution in Spain. The city of Vlora saw passing through its ports imported merchandise from Europe, such as velvets, cotton goods, mohairs, carpets, spices, and leather from Bursa and Constantinople. Some citizens of Vlora even had business associates throughout Europe. 62. The phenomenon of Islamization among the Albanians became primarily widespread from the 17th century and continued into the 18th century. 63. Islam offered them equal opportunities and advancement within the Ottoman Empire. However, motives for conversion were, according to some scholars, diverse depending on the context, though the lack of source material does not help when investigating such issues. 63. Because of increasing suppression of Catholicism, most Catholic Albanians converted in the 17th century, while Orthodox Albanians followed suit mainly in the following century. Since the Albanians were seen as strategically important, they made up a significant proportion of the Ottoman military and bureaucracy. Many Muslim Albanians attained important political and military positions and culturally contributed to the broader Muslim world.